Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Postgame Huddle brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Mark Givler. Got Devin Radcliffe with me here today. Wow. Ohio State survives 21-17. This is going to certainly feel like a loss, I think, to many fans, but it's not going to feel like a loss in the locker room. We'll get to that in a minute, but that was not the inspired and angry performance I think we may have expected them coming out of the bye week, coming off the loss. Devin, just kind of your initial takes here on what we just watched.
I'll give you two. One, Ohio State won. So if you're an Ohio State fan, survive in advance. I mean, we are rapidly approaching November here. It's end of October. Every win is a good win. So I'll give you the positive spin there. End of the day, they still won. Other side of the story, if you will, like you led with, coming off of the Oregon game, all the questions coming out of that game, having 2 weeks to prepare with the bye following the Oregon game, one would have rightfully expected to see what's the word I'm looking for here? Galvanized, is that the right word in this circumstance? Ohio State team on all three phases to come out and like you heard Coach Day say pregame, it's all about the actions or something to that effect. It's not about words. It's about the actions. Show them with your actions. And on the field there, they got the win, like I said. However, you really were looking for a team that talks about winning a championship, coming out and looking like a dominating team against an opponent who was coming off I can't remember exactly what it was, but they talked about it all throughout the game, a 40-point loss to Indiana or something to that effect. So this, again, win in advance. However, you really would have liked to have seen a dominating performance today from Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm going to start. I usually start with the negatives because there's usually more negatives, or there's usually more positives than negatives. But it was absolutely ugly on both sides. But the one positive I did take out of this game ultimately, other than of course they did survive, is look, the defense got a turnover, and they did it when it mattered. This team has not gotten turnovers out of its defense really at all. But it's not gotten key turnovers. It's not gotten key stops. And so maybe if there's one thing to take out of this game, it's that while I don't think the defense played a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, I think, we're going to get into some things with especially the run game. But this has been a thing the defense hasn't really done well, which is get fourth quarter stops in key situations, force a key turnover late in the game. So were they playing a top 5 or 10 team today? No, but still, the offense, which is kind of unusual. The offense, it's usually the defense kind of puts the offense in bad spots. Today, the offense put the defense in some bad spots, and the defense was able to its credit, get a few key plays, get a few key stops. But I don't know how you're feeling about this right now, because we talked about this 2 weeks ago. We said it like right after the game 2 weeks ago, that I think it was even in my post-game observations column, was the final score of that Oregon game wasn't nearly as concerning as the Josh Simmons injury. And I thought they held it together pretty well against Oregon with all the shuffling around on the offensive line. They did not play well today. That was bad today up front. And then Michalski gets injured at the end of the game, so we don't even know what the offensive line is going to look like moving forward. That's going to be a huge concern now going into the week.
No, I agree. There's no getting around it. Losing 2 left tackles now. I don't want to use the word catastrophic, but like you said, there's no telling what this offensive line could potentially look like going into next week, because they're going to have to do some real evaluations to see what their best combination of the starting 5 is. Just right off the top of my head, do you take Josh Fryer and make him left tackle? Because he's played tackle for 2 years, if nothing else. That's something you could potentially look at. they slid out left guard Jackson to finish the game at left tackle and brought in name escapes me, Montgomery.
Yep.
To finish the game. So there's all types of possibilities. They've been rotating guards at the right guard spot. Does one of them become the permanent left guard starter? I mean, there's no telling what could potentially be, but definitely no way to, as someone who always try to find the positive side of it. Losing 2 left tackles, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to spin for any program, not just Ohio State.
Yeah, and that's going to be all the speculation this week is what that offensive line is going to look like, what that starting 5 is going to look like on the road in Happy Valley. I mean, look, I said all week, I said it's going to be Michalski at left tackle because that's the least disruptive option. So you're going to give Zen Michalski the first opportunity at it because that you can keep your other 4 guys in place. And so that's the ideal, that's plan A. Well, I don't know how plan A is going to be in place against Penn State because even if Zen Michalski is somehow healthy for Penn State, which, gosh, it didn't look very good. I don't think he played well enough today to warrant rolling that same 5 out. Like, I think, and now again, like if you flip Fryer, now you're flipping him. That's like doing everything left-handed. It's being a righty and doing everything left-handed when you have to flip sides like that. Now, I know they cross-train guys for these situations. But I'll tell you this, I didn't see Josh Fryer working a left tackle at all in the spring or like any of our practice availabilities. I didn't see Josh Fryer one time. I'm not saying he doesn't work on it on the side or they haven't tried it, but that's going to be a tough plan A for me. I think plan A probably has to be Donovan Jackson at left tackle because you can plug in Searveld, who started a couple games for you already at left guard, and keep Tegra at right guard, and Montgomery can provide support at either guard spot if there's an issue, if there's an injury, if Tegra's injury flares up, if someone's ineffective, whatever it might be. But at least you keep your center and you keep your right tackle in place, and then you move your most experienced offensive lineman to left tackle. Like that's maybe how you do this. But yeah, I mean, this has become very concerning. And again, it's not necessarily even because of the Michalski injury at the end of the game, because it was a problem all game. Like this, like I said, recently, like last week or a week or two ago on here, like there's no trade deadline. You can't go out and get yourself a left tackle right now. You can't trade with, someone who's out of the race. Like, Alabama's kind of fading. They might not be in the playoff picture right now, and they're not selling at the deadline. You can't go get Caden Proctor from Alabama in a trade at the deadline. Like, it doesn't work that way. So they got to figure this out with what they've got, and that's highly concerning. I thought the offensive line was a big problem today, especially that left tackle spot. So that's just a continued thing. Devin, what was your thought on the defense today? Just, points wise, stats wise, probably going to look pretty solid. Had some issues defending the run. What's your, I could go either way on the defense today. What's your opinion on the defense?
Definitely witnessed that they put a bigger emphasis on pressure. They really wanted to get after Nebraska and the freshman quarterback, and they seemed to, if I was going to oversimplify it, dust off the 2022 playbook and the blitzes they used during the 2022 season. They seem to default to overwhelming pressure, meaning we're going to try and bring one more man than you can block, especially there in third down circumstances. And again, and this happens when you decide you're going to resort to bringing max pressure. It was feast and famine. I mean, they made some plays, got some stops. Conversely, the go-ahead touchdown for Nebraska came because of a beating the pressure and a little inside slant move that set him up for the 1st and goal at the quarter-inch line or whatever the official had said. So, feast or famine approach. And again, if you're going to adopt that, you've got to be able to live with some of those busts. And we saw it today with the quarterback run. The quarterback had some big runs today when he beat the blitz, take off, and no one was there to account for the quarterback getting out of the pocket when the pressure didn't get home. On the flip side, the positive side, I think they had I think by the end of the game, they were in double-digit tackle for losses, if I'm not mistaken. And 2 weeks ago, I think the big talk was they only had 2 or 0. Yeah.
They did 0.
They had 0, so they went from 0 to double digits. But again, what's your cost benefit analysis there of, hey, we're gonna live on pressure again? Then you just kind of got to say, all right, hey, you gave up a 50-yard quarterback scramble. Then you just got to say, all right, they got us on that one, and get back and get after it again.
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem with, the blitzing. I want to see them bring added pressure. I can live with a few plays being made, and I think that's okay. For me, that's okay. My concern defensively today was this was a bit different than how the Oregon game played out. It felt like Oregon was just kind of 5-6 yards at a time, whereas Nebraska was able to make some stops in the backfield, but they were also able to get some chunk plays, and that kind of goes into what you're talking about with feast or famine. But I can live with that personally. But yeah, the run game for the second consecutive game, the run defense for the second consecutive game was concerning. And they did it in 2 different ways. So it's not like, oh, look, they gave up runs today because of, being more aggressive on defense. I mean, maybe that's true, but they were also giving up rushing yards, before that, to Oregon. And so they got to figure that out. But yeah, Matt Rule's at the podium. So we'll check in with him.
They didn't back down. They had some really tough breaks. They had some things really go against them, even the way we started. And they competed. It's the first time. It's the first time since I've been here that I felt a championship mindset in the locker room. Along with the championship mindset, as those who compete know, comes utter disappointment when you lose. So that part's hard. It's hard for the guys. But I saw a group of guys, even at the very end, take the field, going out there to make one more play, have a chance to compete against one of the best teams in the country. So I thought they grew up. I challenged them. It better look this way next week. Some of the football still's tough. It's hard. You're literally, you got some of our administrators that hear me on the field. I'm still, you got some young guys out there. You're still coaching things out there in the middle of the game that in a year or two, you hope that it's second nature. It's just what it is. But for those of us who believe in the long way, the hard way, for those of us who haven't had things handed to us, for those of us who believe in building, for those people who believe in putting in an honest day's work, I hope while they're disappointed, they're proud of what they saw, what they competed. And while I yelled at the officials sometimes and all that, our players didn't let it bother them. Our players just continued to compete. Thought we played with class and dignity. We had a chance to win. So I know that's long. I know it's hard. I don't say that to justify what we're doing. I'm saying that so our players will understand why I'm so proud. Not satisfied. That's very, very, very important. There are no moral victories, but proud. With that, I'll take what questions you guys have.
Can you discuss how you had success against Ohio State's run game, both what you guys did well and what you might have been able to take advantage of in terms of what Ohio State did?
I thought our defense was dominant all day. Save 3 plays, take away 3 plays. I think on the first one, we were playing a little 3 down and we took advantage of it. Tony did such a nice job. We kind of recognized pretty early we were going to be able to rush the passer, so he went back to 4 down. The second one, kind of a condensed set check, and they just, Jeremiah is a really, really good player. He ran by us, and just a nice play by them. Just they made a play, right? And then really the third one, they just kind of ran a double move out and up and just caught us in the zone coverage where you need someone just to make a great play. And we just, we didn't see it. But other than those 3 plays, I think that was probably as good a defense as I've seen, for most of the day. I thought we tackled well, we handled the run, we won on the perimeter, we hit the quarterback. I think my eyes aren't very good, so it's hard. I don't know what the third down numbers were, but I thought we were excellent on third down, including some 1 for 10, some 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s, a 4th and 1 stop. So We won well, until the last play. We won the turnover battle with Malcolm's great pick. So, I don't think it was anything special. They have a great run game. Chips, they've got great players, got a great coach. I think our guys just played really well, played physical, played hard, got off blocks. We didn't do anything real special today.
Goal line situation, 4 plays, 7 holes on the runs. Walk us through the process of those play calls and everything like that.
Yeah, I think you have the ball down there, you need to score a touchdown. I can only really probably talk about the last one. We had him set up to run the speed sweep. We thought we'd get in. When Jalen went down, we thought Jalen went down inside the 1. As the official came out, he's coming down like on the 1 yard line. And then as he runs out, that's how you spot balls, right? Kind of goes to the 2. We lost Barrett, our fullback, last week. So we had to use defensive players. So we send them out thinking the ball's in the 1 as the ball gets respotted back to the 2. And you probably saw me pretty animated about it. Now you're calling that play from the 1.5, 2 yard line. I think the same play happened right before the half, right? Like we thought we had a first down. So then we had to, burn it. So, and I'm not complaining about the officiating. I'm just telling you the impact. And when you're on the road in this environment with the noise and all the things that are happening, credit to the Ohio State fans. What a great environment. I mean, the red coats, from the minute you get here, they're nice and friendly to you, and the game starts, and they're here to make that hard. A ball you think spotted somewhere that gets moved back really affects the play calls that you have. I do think, you can't. It's hard in life, you have to find, at the end, when you look at the results, if they don't work, they don't work. But you're also saying to yourself, the best things we did today were also Dante on some big runs, and so, if you want to run the ball, you have to sometimes be willing to have a 2 yard gain, a 3 yard gain, which sets up now a ball outside, which we thought maybe Jalen would score on. And if not, we said, we'll get the ball down inside the 1 and we'll pound it. If it's 4th and 3, then we'll throw the ball in. I think the spot got us. And again, I didn't want to use a timeout there in the second half. Maybe I should have. But I knew the game would come down to the end. We need the timeouts. And the other thought process being, if we run the ball, if we pound it in there, we run the ball at the 1, score. If we don't get it, we'll get the ball right back, which we did. And that's kind of the thought process down there.
Can you detail that championship mindset that you saw and when and how that came through to you in the locker room over the week? And when did you see it?
I think I've been pretty consistent in saying, to you guys, I think the guys do a great job during the week. It's getting to these moments and saying, here we go again. I'm just, again, I don't want anyone to take anything I say the wrong way because everything I say is with peace and love. But when they haven't won and then the commentary around them is always pretty like, hey, this isn't good enough. They're in a culture where all they hear is like, this isn't good enough. And so how do you get them through that? You push them through that. It's just what it is. Like you push them through that. And so we always work hard. I've never had a time where I thought the guys didn't work hard. But I thought they went out there. I mean, the game couldn't have started any worse. I mean, it's like, holy smokes. And the defense took the field like last year and said, let's go get a stop. They got to stop. But I thought it was before the game, and I thought it was at halftime. Really at halftime, I told them. Because last week I said some different things to them at halftime. And this week at halftime, I said, this is what it's supposed to look like. If I start worrying about the results only, and you had a coach, you had Coach Osborne, who all he talked about was the process and not the results. I mean, everybody knows what it's supposed to look like. Coach Osborne taught us. He showed us. Like, worry about the process. And so, to me, the way it felt at halftime was the process. Like, they were excited to get back out there and play. They were not like, oh, man, I can't believe I can't believe they called OP, offensive pass interference on that play. They weren't worried about that, which a lot of times our guys have worried about. You always got me saying, like, just play. What's next? Just play. What's next? And so I felt like a lot of the things we talk about took hold today. And that to me is something I feel relieved. I feel despondent that we lost the game. I thought we were going to win the game. I feel beat up for the guys. But I know when I say these things, a lot of people are probably going to take them the wrong way. I also know, like, across the country, I tell Troy, like, I got college coaches who text me sometimes like, hey, Matt, I listen to your press conferences every week because I'm really honestly doing my best for people who want to hear it, not pick it apart, but want to hear it, trying to give everyone a step-by-step picture of what we're trying to do. It's easy to pick apart. But like, I'm just trying to like lay it out there for people who love coaching and love kids. You know how hard it is to like come up here every week and talk about what went wrong without ever making a kid look bad. Like, I listen to coaches all the time talk about we got to execute. That means your players aren't very good. When coaches say we just got to execute better, they're throwing it on the kids. And just, we stand up here and we try so hard to give everyone a true picture. Because one thing I love about Nebraska fans is they love football. They want to know the hows, the whats, the whys. And I listen to the people I trust. Like I called Coach Osborne on Sunday. I said, Coach, you got 5 minutes for me? What do you think? Coach Osborne and Coach Solis came to practice on Tuesday. Coach, And the old things are the real things, are the good things. And so I'm only saying this now because I want our players, if they just listen to this press conference, to know how truly, truly, truly excited I was to be in that locker room with them. I didn't have to be a cheerleader today. I didn't have to be like, come on, you can do this. Like, they were like, get out of the way. And we've had moments like that. That was 60 minutes of that today. Dylan went into the tent before the last.
And you said the other day that you wanted this team to come play angry today. Do you think that they did that today? What's your evaluation of that effort?
Yeah, I just the way we went out in the fourth quarter and won the game. That's something we talked about. In that off week and digesting the Oregon game. It's like, it's one thing to have stats. It's one thing to, get turnovers and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you got to win the game in the fourth quarter. That's it. So we're down by 3 in the fourth quarter. We put a drive together, score a touchdown, and then the defense, gets stops like that. Like that to me is what we got to do if we're going to win these games. And, the truth is we don't always find ourselves in games like that. Now, we're going to look back and find that, we should not be in games like this, quite honestly. I mean, that's just the way we look at it. But we are there, give Nebraska credit and Matt and the job they did. They, had a hard time the week before. We knew they were going to come out and play us really hard. That's playing in the Big Ten. But to me, that was the idea. Like I kept saying, go win. How are we going to win the game? We talked about that in the off season or on the off week. We did that. So that we can build on. But certainly if we're going to go 1 for 10 on third down, if we're going to run the football the way we did in this game, we're going to be in a tough spot in terms of putting the defense in the situations they were in and also the turnover. So, but I do like the way we kept playing, even after, a couple of unfortunate things that went on. We got to leave no doubt. We can't leave it up to a call. And that mentality is what we kept talking about. And the crowd, got into it there in the fourth quarter and helped for sure. So I think, being in these situations for this team is going to help us move forward.
Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, I know you have some injuries on the offensive line, but it seemed like they struggled both in the run game and in the pass game today. Was it something? Did Nebraska show you something that you didn't expect, or was it an execution thing on you?
Yeah, I got to go back and watch the film and figure that out myself. It seemed like a little bit of both, quite honestly, and it's not good enough. We got to be able to run the football. We didn't do that today, and that's why we put the defense in bad spots. That's why we were 1 for 10 on third down and 1 for 2 in fourth downs. So I do think that it's good to see us put together that drive. We were explosive in the pass game, and Will threw some balls down the field, but the turnover put us in a really bad spot on defense. But I really like the way the defense played. I thought we played with energy. We played with fire. We kept fighting, even though there were some tough spots early in the game.
Over to the right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, do you have any kind of early prognosis on Zen? And I guess, is Donovan Jackson going out to tackle? Is that your next step? If he does miss time, is that your most comfortable option moving forward at left tackle?
We're gonna have to talk about it and figure it out. We knew that if that happened in a game, that was our answer and solution to get out of the game. Now we're gonna have to go back and figure out what's next.
Over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Ryan, I know you said Tuesday you were going to launch balls. Were you happy with the performance today? Was that an area of focus going downfield, just trying to stretch it a little bit? And how concerned were you going in?
So when I said that in the press conference, I meant launching balls on our defense. I think it was perceived the other way, which I was kind of a little nervous because I knew we were going to launch balls in this game. But we did. Because I remember saying to myself, did I talk about the offense that way? Because we planned on taking some shots in this game. We did. But yeah, no, I thought that the execution on the throw and catch to Carnell on the big ball was big. And then the one to Jeremiah was really well executed. Timing was right. Good throw, great catch. And then coming out, I thought that was a good call by Chip on the first down. We were struggling running the ball. set up that play action pass down the sideline to Carnell, which kind of got us into plus territory and then allowed us to score. So I thought that part was a positive coming out.
And folks, we have Cody Simon in the back right now. Over here to the front, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, obviously you didn't agree with the targeting call, it appeared by your reaction. What was your take on that? And then number two, Cody Simon just seemed to play, for one of another term, possessed in several instances today.
I'm glad you used that word. That was a word that we talked about coming in, just being possessed and playing that way. And that's the mentality that he took coming into the game. And, I thought we played that way on defense. We played angry. We played possessed. Guys were running around all over the place. And that's the way we got to play all the time. And so now we got to do that again this week. It can't just be, 1 week, and then the next week it's different. It has to be consistent week after week after week. And that starts with our week of preparation. I thought we had a good week of preparation. I thought the coaches did a good job. We got in there. We figured out what we wanted to get done. We practiced hard. We pushed all the buttons. And so we won a game on defense here, which was great. There was another part of the question.
Obviously, you didn't agree with the targeting call.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything right now on that. Yeah.
Over to the left.
Myself in trouble.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, what are you thinking with 10 minutes to go when Nebraska takes that lead? I know you wanted to come out at halftime, score, kind of put the game under your control. It didn't happen.
Yep.
I mean, everything was going against you. What are you thinking at that point?
No, I just, what do we got to do to get going? And then, we got to find a way to win the game in the fourth quarter. And that feeling that you're talking about right there is where, when we find ourselves in these matchup games, it's almost like the first time you're in that feeling. Okay, like, how do we got to go do this? Well, we got to get the guys together, figure out how we're going to go win the game, and then go do it. And part of it is for the coaches to put the players in the right situation to be successful. But part of it is the players to go win the game. And it's our job as coaches to make sure we give them the right environment to go take over the game. And I thought we did that today on defense.
All right, folks, I'm going to have Jordan Hancock go to the second table to the back. So, and then continuing on with Coach Day, over to the right, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Right. I think there was a point where you went over to the entire offensive line and you were pretty animated after I think you guys failed to convert on a 2nd and 2 and then a 3rd and 1 in that situation. And you're going through some struggles here with some injuries there. But were you maybe expecting more from that group today than maybe what you got?
Yeah. We need to run the football. I think we ran the ball for 64 yards. And 24 was up from Will. So that's not even close to good enough. So we're averaging under 3 yards a carry with Quinshawn and Travion. That's not getting it done. We got to do better than that.
Over to the state of the right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, do you guys currently have confidence that Jaden can make field goals?
Yes, we do. We do. We see it every day in practice. And, we do. We have confidence in Jaden. I know I missed that one, but yeah, we do. We have confidence that he can make kicks.
Over to the right, Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, prior to Zen's injury, did you guys ever consider taking him out of the game? It seemed like he was giving up quite a few pressures, some that led to sacks, one that led to a fumble. And then since you did not take him out of the game, what was that thought process there?
I felt like for his first start, he had to play through it. Didn't want to, panic and just pull him out, because it's your first start, so there's some things you're going through, and some whether it's first time jitters or whatever it might be. You're pressing and you're trying to get your feet underneath you. So we wanted him to play through that and see how that went. We'll see how he is now after the game.
And final question for Coach, front row, Stefan Kreisnick, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, you talked the last week plus about sitting on the Oregon loss because you had that bye week. Do you feel like you got the response you wanted? Do you feel like they flushed that game like you wanted?
Well, I certainly think on defense that the response was excellent. I just like the way our demeanor was, the way we were, we were playing, we were flying around, we were getting lined up. A lot of things to build on there coming out of the game. Again, on offense, we got to do a better job in a few different areas there. So that we got to get back to the drawing board and figure that part out, because we got a big challenge here against Penn State.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach. All right, folks, we're going to bring Quinshawn Judkins to the front podium. And we are open for questions. Over here to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
You guys didn't run the ball really well today. What was going on? Was it just because of different pieces and parts on the line adjusting? What did you see?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, for our offensive line, definitely wasn't our best day up front, but I think those guys will get it corrected. Coach Fry, he does great at what he does as far as coaching, and I think he'll definitely fix it for next week. But I think everyone could improve.
From getting frustrated in these situations where it's just not the holes aren't there, and you're just I don't know.
Yeah, just staying poised and not being too high, not being too low in those situations. And, it's a 4-quarter game, and just believing in my teammates. So I know those guys can go out there and execute. So I'm not going to give up on them or just be frustrated that the plays don't work. Just continue to go out there and just try to execute.
Over to the right, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Quinshon, we haven't talked to you since the Oregon game. For starters, how is the hand? And also, did that impact anything that you were able to do carrying the ball while you were dealing with that?
Yeah, I want to give a big thanks to our athletic trainers here. They helped me a lot. And, nothing's, tremendously like wrong with my hand or anything like that. I still was able to play today. So big thanks to them.
Over to the left, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Quinshon, when obviously the offensive line's changing pieces a lot right now with some injuries, does that affect how maybe you see holes, how things go up front or in the run game when so many pieces are changing in and out?
I think especially when you have new guys in the rotation, they have to get used to the tempo and how things go up front, especially in the game tempo compared to, a walkthrough or different things like that. So having those guys mentally dialed in and getting those reps that they need, I think that's the biggest part, but it's not anything that they couldn't handle.
Over to the left, Katie Kapusta, Spectrum One.
Can you talk about how that last drive by you guys really gave you confidence maybe going into next week? And I rewatched the route that you ran for that touchdown. You really schooled your defender, and he lost his footing. Talk a little bit about what that was like. You were wide open.
So just outside release route, looking at the leverage of the linebacker. He overplayed the route, so I cut it up, and nobody was in that area of the field. So I just gave my back shoulder to the quarterback, so he threw the ball back pipeline.
And
yeah, definitely. I think it just helped our team. I want to give a big thanks to our defense, man. They played tremendous today. Those guys helped us so much and just did their part. Overdid their part. So a lot of great players on that side of the ball, and they really showed up today.
Folks, we do have Ty Hamilton in the very back as well. If we could start to wrap up with Cody Simon. Any more questions for Quinshon Judkins? If not, Quinshon, thank you very much. I anticipate we'll have Will Howard up here shortly.
So we're waiting on Will Howard right now. That should pop up just about any minute now. So interesting kind of hearing the two different head coaches talk. Matt Rule, obviously very proud of his team. Ryan Day, obviously a little frustrated with his team. So it's kind of an interesting to kind of match those up against each other with the winning coach maybe not being very happy and the losing coach being pretty happy with how things went. But definitely interesting to watch kind of as you see just kind of where those programs are at right now. But that was obviously a huge game for Nebraska to kind of get back on the horse after the Indiana blowout last week and really give Ohio State quite a scare. This is not the type of games that really Ryan Day has struggled with over the years. With we've talked about the Michigan games and some of the other top 5, top 10 type matchups that have got the Buckeyes during the Ryan Day era, but this is not the type of game he has generally struggled in. So that was another thing I think today that was a little unusual, a little concerning, I guess. Just the fact that again these 20-point spreads or whatever they were, just usually those are the games Ryan Day handles. Was not the case today. Here's a look at the.
Okay, let's start to wrap it up with Cody then, folks.
Here, sorry.
And Cody, could you come back this way too?
Yeah, we're still waiting on Will Howard. Yeah, I mean that's not good. More Nebraska, 18-11 in first downs. It was 18-8 at one point before that last drive, for that scoring drive. So they had like doubled up Ohio State there in first downs. Ohio State barely wins the total yardage battle. They get doubled up on rushing. Red zone 3 out of 4. Obviously, the one was a big one, getting that goal line stand. Time of possession. I mean, these are stats that, again, like if you would have said before the game, how could Nebraska possibly win this game? Well, the stat sheet would look a lot like this. You would get a stat sheet where they doubled them up in rushing. They nearly doubled them up in first downs and, dominated time of possession and kept Ohio State's offense, from sustaining long drives. I mean, Ohio State's offense today was pretty feast or famine. They had some explosive plays, some big plays, and then a whole bunch of 3 and outs. As Ryan Day mentioned, 1 out of 10 on third down. That's just that's not good enough. That's we can talk about the offensive line, which was not good at all today. But that's offensive line, quarterback, and offensive coordinator when you go 1 out of 10 on third down. I mean, I would probably rank them in that order. I would probably rank offensive line, quarterback, then offensive coordinator today, if we're playing the blame game on the offense. But that's just not going to be good enough. And I think the thing that most people are going to rightfully say right now is that today's performance is not going to beat Penn State next week. It's not going to beat Indiana in a few weeks. It probably wouldn't beat Michigan. So this is the type of performance that they survived today. And Devin and I will get into it a little later. The whole survive and advance mentality you kind of need to have now with the expanded playoff. So they did survive today, but this is a performance that if you replicate this performance the rest of the way, you're going to lose a couple more games if that's the performance. So still a lot to work on, still a lot, to go back and review and try and fix. Let me bring in Devin here real quick. What would you do on the offensive line? Like we talked about, do they just move Donovan out to left tackle and put the guards in, Sierveld and Integra, Shabola, and just kind of keep that? Or because Ryan Day said that was kind of their break the glass mid-game plan, but he's going to have to go back and look. Is there a better plan that he's going to maybe assess this week, or is that probably what they have to do?
I first got to start by saying this. It doesn't seem like that long ago when you heard the talk of Ohio State is playing too many offensive tackles at once. And, you always have those preseason conversations of if you could take just one player from any previous team, who would you want on this year's team? Give me one of those tackles, any of them, any of them, just to get a true left tackle back on this team. But in all seriousness, I think you got to look at what's kind of like they did with the left tackle today was what's the least amount of moving parts. Again, you don't want to have to at this point in the season start a whole new offensive line, even though you're going to keep 3 of the 5 starters, but 4 of the 5, you don't have to shuffle everybody around if you don't absolutely have to. And I think the simplest move would be to move left guard to left tackle and insert your backup left guard. That way, like you mentioned earlier, you're not flip-flopping right to left at this point in the season, and again, causing a whole big shuffle ripple effect along the whole offensive line. So again, that is my off-the-cuff knee-jerk reaction. Obviously, you don't get to see practice or anything like that, but I think that would be the prudent approach with the quick turnaround they have going into the Penn State game next week.
I would make that move regardless of what comes back on Zen in terms of his health, in terms of his injury that he sustained toward the end of that game. I would make that move this week, practice it all week, and roll with it. And if something happens in Happy Valley and Zen is healthy, we don't know yet, but then you can kind of adjust from there. It looks like we're getting Will Howard finally. So, yep, here he is.
Howard over here to the left, Jeff from Press Pros. Jeff Gilbert from Press Pros.
Will, Coach talked a lot about fourth quarter and what that meant to be able to win a game in the fourth quarter today. What's your assessment feeling about all that?
Yeah, I think It wasn't perfect, but a win is a win. And we were able to show that, when the going gets tough and when, maybe things aren't going our way, we're able to win the fourth quarter. And I think our defense did an unbelievable job, of getting some stops, making some really big plays in that fourth quarter and getting us a chance to go down there and put that last one in and give us the lead.
For you guys on that last scoring drive versus the whole other part of the second half that preceded that?
First down, man. That's what we talk about. We got to get that first down. And the first play, I thought it was a great play call, versus they were running cover 3 again on that play. And it was perfect. Carnell did a good job getting some extra yards. And once we had that, I felt like there wasn't any stopping us. And once we kind of get momentum going, man, like that's what we need. And we need to just get that first down, 1 or 2 first downs. And once we get that, we got to get rolling. We can't stall out. We're way too explosive of an offense to stall out like we did in the third quarter.
Over to the right, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Other than the 2 long touchdown passes and of course the last drive, you guys really struggled offensively. To what do you attribute the struggles?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. Something I'm going to have to go back and look at the film on. I don't think we ran the ball as well as we wanted to today. And that, a lot of our passes were in the play action world. So if you can't run the ball, it's kind of hard to get into the play action world. But, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know if there's one thing that we can put our finger on. But we got to go back and look at the film and get it corrected because we're in the playoffs now. And this is, every game is the most important game. And we can't afford to, put in performance out there that we're not proud of like today. And, I think today will wake us up and remind us that, we got to just continue to grind every single day, every single week. And, not ever get complacent, man, because, you never know. And especially, I think Nebraska does some good things defensively. I think, they change up some looks on us. They do some funky stuff up front. So credit to them, but, we were able to get it done and a win is a win.
Over to the left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Will, how do you think it affected you guys not having Josh Simmons out there today? And did it affect your decision-making at all, not having him in there at left tackle?
No, it didn't affect my decision-making at all. That's not something I think about when I'm in the game. I got all the trust in the world in Zen and whoever is out there at left tackle. I mean, it's not affecting anything that I'm doing at all. It's next man up mentality, and you got to have full faith in that guy. And I hope Zen's all right, man. I really do. Praying for him. But I definitely, when you lose a tackle with first round potential, like, it's tough. And, that's a dude that we're going to miss. But, I think Zen stepped up and he's got to continue to work, and hopefully he's all right, man. I'm praying for him. But it doesn't affect my decision making at all.
Over to the right, Tim May on 3.
Thanks, Jerry. Just 2 quickies. Well, number 1, on those deep balls, especially the one right down the middle. I mean, obviously, Carnell Tate, getting him involved was big, I think, for you guys. I've been in the second one right on stride. How would you rate your deep ball throws today? Number 1. And number 2, did they present you guys with some maybe different looks up front? They seem, they're a 3-3-5, but they had 5, sometimes 6 guys up there and stuff. How much did that affect the run game? Because clearly you got to watch it on your pad.
Yeah. I think they did some interesting things up front, and that definitely messed with our run game a little bit. I think they had like 2 blitzes that were like perfectly called into our runs. I don't know how that happens, but it's just part of the game. Sometimes it's a chess game, and they made some good moves. Deep ball wise, we hit the ones that we had to, I think it was good, and I'm not gonna give myself a grade on it until I watch the film. I think I maybe held up Carnell just a little bit, maybe just want to push him down the field a little more, make it a little bit easier on him. But, we got the perfect looks. We knew we wanted that play to Carnell versus cover 4 mini. We got it. We wanted to get in a condensed formation, get them into their cloud check and get the rover down for just a step. And you can catch a number 4 down the middle. So just put it up and let them go run under it.
Over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Will, when the running game isn't working, does that put more pressure on you knowing that you have got to make everything work on the passing game, or does it free you up thinking, well, we can't run the ball, let's just let it fly, it's going to be all passing at this point?
That's a good question. I think you can go either way with that. I think you can say, if you can't run the ball, it makes it harder to throw the ball play action wise. But I think at the same time, I try not to worry about that. It's one play at a time, just execute what I have to do, what my job is. Obviously, we want to run the ball better than we did and get ourselves ahead of the sticks more. But for me, I wouldn't say it changes anything, man. My job is my job every single play. And, I'm just trying to take it one play at a time.
Over to the right, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, well, I think you guys had 10 total plays of those first 4 drives in the second half. You had 7 passes in the second half. How are you staying locked in those moments where you guys are going 3 and out? You had the pick there. How are you locked in on that drive where you guys do score and go 75 yards down the field?
You got to keep your head down, man. No matter how it's going, you got to stay locked in. And I'm not gonna let a couple of bad plays, affect me. And I've played a lot of ball. I've had some games where things aren't going your way, and you got to find a way to win at the end. And that's what we did today. And it's not always going to be pretty. Sometimes you got to scrap it out and make it work. And it wasn't going our way in that third quarter. We're stalling out on drives, and it bugs me, man. I just I don't know. I haven't watched the film. It hurts. I want to get back out there. I don't know, man. It just irks me. Just the competitor in me. I don't like that. But we kept our heads down and knew that our time was coming, and we had to make some plays down the stretch, and we did.
We're going to go 2 more questions with Will. Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, that last drive, it seemed like you got a little more involved in the run game, a couple of zone read keeps maybe, and moved the chains right before the touchdown. How much of the run game issues do you put on yourself? You've talked about being sort of the run game coordinator on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to take responsibility for everything in this offense, and I think that, my ability to run the ball and pull the ball and run, is a really good effect on this offense. And the more that I'm able to do that, the better. I think, I don't know if we had that much in this week, but I think I was a little more aggressive to the keep on that last drive, and they had been, they'd been kind of crashing in and taking the running back and over. I hadn't really pulled one yet. And, late in the game, when the game's on the line, my legs come into the picture a lot more. And, we had a third down, we ran a little draw. We had that one where I pulled off the rover guy. We were actually swiping back for the backside DM, but I was pulling off the D gap defender. Something they just get their eyes lost and just got to control it. But, I do take responsibility. I want to, facilitate everything through the offense. But, obviously at the same time, it's, everybody's job, and we're all in this thing together, man. And I'm not worried. We're going to go back to work and figure out what we did wrong and fix it and move on, because we got a big one next week.
And final question, left aisle, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Couldn't let you get away without asking about that, going back to Pennsylvania to play Penn State. Just your first thoughts about that. Will you be glued to the game tonight, watching them against Wisconsin, I guess?
I'm stoked. I cannot wait. It's going to be a homecoming for me. I grew up a Penn State fan. I wanted to go there my whole life. They didn't think I was good enough, but I guess we'll see next week if I was.
Great. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Go Bucks.
Well, that was certainly an interesting finish there, with Will Howard giving a little comment there about Penn State not thinking he was good enough. So that will, I'm sure, be played several times here this week. Devin, I want to get back to the defense. We talked about just the aggressiveness today. We saw a lot more extra pressure being brought. Did it always work? Maybe, maybe not, but more negative plays today, sacks, a turnover. Just how would you, I guess, assess what you saw on defense today, and in terms of what the looks they were giving were, and if you're in favor of kind of the changes that were made this week?
I am still looking for that sweet spot between 22 and 23. I believe they are more than capable, more than talented enough up front to win line of scrimmage battles with their front four. Conversely, there are times where you do need to create that negative play and pressure as necessary You see a lot of teams. I think just here recently, a lot of talk was made of Georgia's performance defensively against Texas, for example, and a lot of the pressures, looks you saw Georgia use were not necessarily the overwhelming, we're going to bring more than you can block type pressures, but they're more creative with who they brought, where they brought them from, and they were still able to play a relatively safe, for lack of a better description, coverage behind it. Again, there's time and a place where you just need to bring more than they can block to make sure, the old Bobby Bowden quote of buckle up, someone's getting ready to score type moments in a game. But again, I'd like to see that continued evolution to more, I guess, for lack of a better word, safe pressures, where you're changing up who the blitzer is, still able to play coverage behind it. I think an easy example, and again, I'll use that Georgia-Texas ball game, was one of the big corner blitzes that Georgia hit in that ball game. And, especially number one there, Igbinosa is more than willing to play physical ball. You drop a D end in coverage and bring in Igbinosa off the corner. You're still bringing four, still able to play whatever coverage you'd like behind it. That's just one way to change up. You're still bringing four, still safe, but change up the picture of who's coming on the pressure end from where.
Yeah, I was encouraged today by it feels like, even though, yes, we can sit here and was the run defense up to par today? Probably not. We can point to certain things, but it feels like they at least understood, like, hey, what we've been doing isn't good enough. Let's at least throw some things at Nebraska. Let's not just rush for our front four. Let's not be so averse to bringing six guys even on a blitz. It was encouraging to me. Now I need to see this happen. Maybe in Happy Valley is a good starting point. This needs to happen against a team that can, really cause some problems for you. To Dylan Raiola's credit, I thought he did a really good job in the first half, kind of getting away from their pressure. They moved him off. I felt they moved him off his spot very consistently today with the extra pressure. And yeah, he broke a couple of runs. He came into the game. I think we were talking about, someone said he came into the game with negative 80 rushing yards, and he had 40 in the first half today. So okay, tip your cap. You're not Lamar Jackson, but you got us on a couple that almost hit that didn't, squeaked through and got out. But I'm willing to live with that. I personally, now others might not be, that's fine. Everyone has their opinion. I'm willing to live with that if it leads to some sacks, if it leads to a turnover or two, if it leads to some negative plays where you felt like they got them in 2nd and 12 a lot today. I can live with a few things breaking down, especially with someone like Raiola, who's just, he just kind of squirmed away a few times. If you're facing a legitimate, big time scrambler, maybe a Cam Ward or someone like that, if you're facing something like that, then I understand, hey, we got to be a little safer. We got to be a little more careful. But I'm willing to roll the dice in games when you're facing a quarterback like Raiola, who I would much rather have him try to make those types of plays than have a clean pocket to throw from. I just would. I thought they moved him off his spot consistently throughout the game.
There's an old, great point. And there's an old coaching saying, when you're scouting a quarterback you're going to play, what does he want to do or what is he good at? All right. If he can throw the ball, all right, how do we make him run? If he can run the ball, how do we make him throw? And to your point, it was, okay, he made, he had negative 40 rushing yards or whatever he said the statistic was coming in this game. So, all right, we can afford to sell out and force him to beat us with his legs. And, made some plays, but, wasn't enough, obviously, here at the end to put enough points on the board ultimately to win the ball game. Again, did he make some plays? Did he keep some plays alive? Did he flip the field one time? Yes, 100%. But again, at the end of the day, you forced him off the spot, hit some sacks, TFLs, and something kind of got lost there is took away a lot of their quick pass game that they liked, the perimeter pass game. The statistic up there, I think I saw Burke had 2 or 3 tackles for loss, blowing up some plays on the perimeter. Down their home stretch, Cody Simon had 2 TFLs there to put the game away on a screen pass and a perimeter pass. So again, the pressure took away what ultimately the Nebraska offense was trying to accomplish. And one more thing here we didn't get a chance to talk about, and I don't want to get lost since we're on the topic of the defense, is how huge double momentum swing in the ball game there. Will Howard's interception, Nebraska gets the ball inside the 5, and the Ohio State defense goes in there, gets a goal line stand, and Nebraska comes away with nothing. I mean, that's I don't want that to get lost in the conversation here about how huge the defense came up in some certain spots in this ball game to absolutely stop Nebraska and get the ball back to the offense, and that was a huge one. This is actually 2 games in a row now where we've seen the defense come on the field after offense had about as good as field position could possibly want inside the red zone and stuffed them. And I think Oregon held them to a field goal, if I'm not mistaken, and here Nebraska obviously held them to a 4-and-out, big goal line stand by the corner. Igbinosa going over the pile and knocking the running back.
Yeah, so if I could kind of wrap up my thoughts in like a couple sentences, I think if I could like cliff notes of everything we've talked about or everything I've thought about this game, I think 80 to 90% of this game is kind of like burn the tape, but there was some situational stuff that I think they can build off of. Like there were some things they did situationally that they really haven't done well over the last couple of years. We talked about earlier, the defense, getting a 4th quarter turnover, getting a big stop, getting a couple of big stops down the stretch. Really, again, they weren't playing a top 10 team today, so people, myself included, are going to be like, okay, let's good step 1, but let's actually do this. Let's do this in Happy Valley next week, or let's do this. If there's an Oregon rematch or whatever it might be, let's do it then. But situationally, these are things they haven't really done before. And offensively, your offense basically played like crap today, but you get the ball down 3 in the 4th, and you put together a really nice 75-yard drive. It's the drive, obviously, they needed 2 weeks ago, and just, things kind of fell apart on them at the end. So I think there are some things they did. Well, again, while 80% of this was like ick, I think there were some things they did situationally that they can maybe grow from and build off of, that they've now like, okay, yeah, we can get the ball down in the 4th quarter. We're playing like crap, but we can get that ball in the 4th quarter. We can do a 75-yard touchdown drive, or, our defense is capable, as it turns out, of forcing a turnover, of forcing a 4th quarter punt. So there are some things I think that will, once the kind of the stink of like the other stuff wears off for them, I think they'll go back and like, okay, but these situations we handled. So it looks like the guys are ready. The Buckeye Weekly guys. Thank you, Devin. Once again, appreciate you. Tony, are you ready? Tom, are you ready? Tony and Tom, are you ready?
No, we're good. All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Devin, for handling the first half hour of this. Welcome, everybody, to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I just got here from the Matt Rule press conference. I haven't been able to follow along with a lot of the comments. I'm assuming everyone's really excited about this exciting win over one of the historical blue bloods of the sport. Have I read the room correctly? Bowl eligibility as well. I mean, I got to tell you, the folks in the other tower of this stadium would be very happy if they got bowl eligible.
What I'll say is this: the anger that you had, that you, the viewers and the listeners, that you had throughout this game, and then you have this. I know you were happy when Jordan Hancock came down with the interception. So remember that brief moment of joy, of happiness, and then, of course, immediately after. Not immediately, maybe 6 seconds after that, you're angry again. I understand all of that, but also recognize the fact that you were happy for a moment. So you understand that this is actually a good thing that they won, and that it's much better than they lost. Now, I will also say you can't do this next week.
No, I would strongly recommend they not do this next week. In fact, this is a game where I'm going to say Georgia 13, Kentucky 12, and everyone's going to lose their mind because that's different, because that's Georgia and they've won national championships. You do have these games. And if you go through most national championship teams, they have games like this. Ohio State had a loss at Oregon. That was not a bad game. That was not a bad performance. This was a bad performance, but it was a win. You got to win your clunkers. They won their clunker. That's good. There are some significant problems with this team, and I don't know if these are problems that are going to be solvable in the next 6 days and 18 hours or so before they have to get out on the field at Beaver Stadium and start warming up for that game. We talked about the fact that, boy, the player on the team that they really couldn't afford to lose more than anyone else was Josh Simmons. Well, now you lost Josh Simmons for the season. And also Zen Michalski went down, and there has not been an official prognosis on Zen Michalski, but when you get to ride off on the cart after the game, that suggests to me probably not day-to-day. So
yeah,
that's going to be an issue.
I was on the sideline there when he was walking right towards us. I was in between him and like the medical tent in the cart, and just you could hear the strain and like the pain. Every time he would step, you would hear he would vocalize how much pain he was in with one of his legs there. So that does not look like a quick fix, and so I'm going to assume Donovan Jackson will stay there, and we can get into that aspect of it where pretty early on you could tell Zen Michalski was having issues, and he was getting beaten. And so I think they probably assumed there would be some of that early, but just let him settle in and let him get his feet under him, and then you just get through it. And so the one question I wanted to ask Friday, but I got shut down before it all finished, was how much did Donovan Jackson work in practice at left tackle over these past 2 weeks? And I know you talked about rolling them through. Yeah, everybody gets work, but like, how much specifically did he get? Was it 4 snaps on Wednesday and 2 snaps on Tuesday? Like, because now it's going to be, if they choose to go this way, and I don't know how you can't unless you go Austin Searveld. But then the other thing is, we've talked about before, the 5 best. They want the 5 best linemen to play. So Josh Simmons goes down, and do they go with their 5 best? No, they go with Zen Michalski. If Zen Michalski goes down, do they go with their 5 best, meaning Austin Searveld? No, they go with Luke Montgomery. And so it's like, so it's not 5 best. You're just looking for the best person at that spot to make everything else as seamless as possible without changing things. But now now it's going to be, if they do go with Donovan Jackson, is it going to be Austin Searveld at left guard? Is it going to be Luke Montgomery?
Well, I think we probably have seen that it was going to be Luke Montgomery, because you saw at Oregon that was sort of the initial idea, was Luke Montgomery went out there with Donovan Jackson. And so now we've seen it twice, and the answer has not been Austin Searveld in either case. So Austin Searveld is, to me, probably he's at right guard. We saw him in there a little bit against, they mixed him in with Edgar Sherbola again at right guard. It does not seem like that is plan B. Maybe that's plan C, but I guess they're down to plan C. So I guess that's plan D. I mean, it feels like, okay, we have seen the answer. I would love to know not only how much did Donovan Jackson work there in the last week, how much did Donovan Jackson work there over the summer? Because we talked about that as something that they were probably looking at times, and I think we saw them maybe run that out there a little bit maybe during the fall camp, or at least we heard about it a little bit during fall camp. But again, was that for 4 periods during one practice, or was that something where you saw him get a week or 2 of work, and so you've sort of seen it, and then now you're going to just be seeing it a lot more? An important update, hashtag B1G. Want to guess how many points Iowa has? No cheating.
Is it 0?
It's 5. Even more Iowa number than 0.
It is. That is tremendous. I'm just looking through the comments, and somebody said something about Quinshon Judkins telling it like it is or something. He doesn't hold back. I don't know. Not sure what he was looking on Twitter to see if there's anything something that we needed to talk about. But 2 games in a row now for Judkins where he's averaging like 2 yards a carry, and that is a concern. 10 for 29 in this one. So they need to fix that and get that going. 64 yards rushing against a good run defense team, but you should be able to do better than 64 yards. And really, they didn't really even get going until they ran Will Howard a little bit. That's not even going. That's just relative to the way they weren't going earlier on.
Yeah, the offense in the second half. I mean, I know there were people who were very concerned about the defense, and the defense did a lot of the stuff that the people who've been yelling the loudest have been yelling for them to do. And it worked sometimes and it didn't work sometimes. And I think it's a good example of, hey, it's probably not quite as simple as you think. Just like you can't just say, well, blitz more. Okay, well, that sometimes works. And then sometimes you get hit for big plays. I mean, we talked on the pregame show a bunch about how Dylan Raiola never runs the ball, and Dylan Raiola had negative 80 yards rushing or something on the year. And then Dylan Raiola rushed for 31 yards with a long of 38, 9 carries, 31 yards. 38, he had the long rush of the day for either team, like double what anyone else had.
And he had 42 or 43 yards. I think he had 43 yards rushing or 42 yards rushing at the half and 42 or 43 passing at the half. And those scrambles, because he was getting chased out of the pocket. So that's a positive for the defense, and that they flushed him out. But then the negative is that there was nobody there to clean him up. So he did a good job. Whereas I think in the past, certainly last week, instead of scrambling, he's looking to throw it and throwing it to the wrong team. And of course, he didn't do that until the end of the game in this one, which wasn't a huge surprise given the pressure that he was under. That a throw goes a little high and ends up intercepted by Jordan Hancock.
Did Judkins get brought out for the?
Yes.
He did get brought out. Okay.
Yeah, because
okay.
He had the game-winning touchdown catch. Tom.
He did, yes. Wingman Ted says Judkins said the O-line didn't play well and that it affected the run game. I would be interested in hear the exact quote there, because that's generally not the way that.
And in so many words, that may be that may be the message, but
that's generally something you're sort of reading between the lines more than anything
I will
else.
say, in terms of the overall offense, Ohio State had 47 total plays on offense, which is, and 3 of those were kneel downs. Just the 3rd time in the last decade they've had under 50 plays in a game. One was the 2021 Minnesota game, and the other was the 2015 Michigan State game. So not not a ton of plays. I think they had 33 at the end of the 3rd quarter or so. Like there was just no plays, and yet they had like 12 possessions. Although the last one being the kneel down, they had plenty of possessions.
Yeah,
as Will Howard said, it's just they couldn't get that first down, which they did on the game-winning drives. Like once we got that, then as you guys saw, then we could get momentum. They just couldn't ever get that first down.
Well, and what's interesting to me, and I am going to preface this with the fact that I have, once again, a terrible view of the game. So I may have a different view of things when I actually get to go back and watch the TV copy. But just looking at the stats, the post-game stats, they ran the ball 31 times, and they averaged 2.1 yards per rush. They threw the ball 16 times and had 221 yards through the air. We talk all the time about Ryan Day getting too pass happy. Were they too run happy? It felt like there was just, the run was not really there at any point during the game. And I know there were several times that I looked and it felt like Zen Michalski was not having a great day. But I don't, the rest of the offensive line was the lack of run based on the fact that the offensive line was just not having a good day. And if so, did they need to just, hey, we want to run the ball, that's the yada, yada, yada. Sometimes you got to win the game. And if you're throwing it 16 times for 221 yards and running it 31 times for 64, I mean, I don't even need to do the actual math there. It seems like if your average yards per completion is 17 and your average yards per rush is 2, I mean, that is suggestive to me that you should, consider rebalancing your play calling a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's some fear of sacks really screwing them up and getting them behind, because Zen Michalski was having some issues, and he wasn't the only one. Austin Seerveld was in there at one point, and blitzer went right past him. So Will Howard was having to run a little bit and get chased around. I don't know how many times he was actually sacked in this one. I think maybe just once, but they got after him pretty good at times. And then and he has the ability to escape. And they were running him down a couple of times in this one. So I think there's just some concern, especially that last drive where they went, 3 plays for -6 yards when they were trying to win the game, trying to basically not give the ball back, and they go 3 and out. And that last play is like a swing screen to Travion Henderson that loses like 5 yards or whatever. Yeah. That to me is just a complete. We are not comfortable dropping back and throwing right now because of the pass protection.
Yeah, and it felt like Nebraska was sort of in that mode on that last drive as well, where they had the ball and they knew they needed to go down the field and score, and they're throwing like checkdowns, and it was like, Ohio State was sitting on the checkdowns because they knew they were going to be throwing these checkdowns, and it was like, I don't think that's going to work. And I think you've got to just at some point just figure it out is a lazy thing to say, and I don't want to just say figure it out, but you've got to have a solution. Like you've got to get the ball out to your playmakers on the outside quickly. Do the stuff that teams do to Ohio State. Get the ball out in the second and a half to a guy on the outside. Let Jeremiah Smith do something with the ball in his hands, and if he gets tackled in space, if someone can tackle him one-on-one in space, like God bless, that's fantastic. If you have Jeremiah Smith on your team and you target him four times, that is not a good game plan. I don't care how many snaps you have.
Yeah.
If you have Jeremiah Smith on your team and you target him 4 times in a game, that is a bad game plan. You should try again.
Yeah, and that goes just back to the lack of first downs and all of the three and outs.
You can throw them the ball on the first set of downs on a drive. That's my. How many times did he get thrown the ball in the second half? Because I know they threw the ball 3-ish times in the first half. I mean, it.
Yeah, I can't. It won't separate by half.
Okay.
I know they threw the ball 8 times no, not 8 times. This is a great show.
Hurry up and send me the final book, Ohio State SID team.
But yeah, I'm with you. That should be a career low in targets as he extends his Ohio State record 7 games in a row with a touchdown catch.
You threw him the ball 4 times and he scored a touchdown. Like, I don't want to oversimplify things, but he seems to catch times on a somewhat regular basis.
I will say, Tom,
and
he got a 60-yarder and then 2 5-yarders. I mean,
yeah. And Jordan Kaplish has my advice to Tom: don't watch a TV copy. It's not any better.
I heard Gus Johnson did not have a good day today.
I had people texting me that Joel Klatt did not have a good game today. Jeremiah Smith, 3 catches for 70 yards, on 4 targets, 1 touchdown, tied Chris Carter's freshman touchdown record with 8. So it is October, and he has already tied the Ohio State true freshman touchdown receiving record.
And there you see he's 6 away on the 41 receptions from Chris Carter.
Yeah, past David Boston today, who had a pretty darn good freshman year, and that was a freshman year that went all the way into January.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Smith, 8 tied with Chris Carter, now ahead of David Boston. I mean, pretty good is what I would say.
Well, I mean, we predicted this.
Yeah,
we all said he was going to break all of the records. I do think
we talked about. We did a show at one point over the summer where we talked about it, and I remember
Nebraska?
saying like by Penn State, like he would have some of these records. So
Kevin, you run the archives, right? If you could go back, just do a Control F.
Okay, and we're getting
Jeremiah Smith.
We're getting some Control Fs in the chat as well. I think there's a lot of different ways we could go with this.
You won a game in the fourth quarter.
They won a game in the fourth quarter.
You shouldn't have been in that situation.
You should not have been in that situation. It was a little bit to me like the Penn State game 2 years ago, where you're sitting there and it was, I think that one they were down by a few, and I remember C.J. Stroud taking a picture of C.J. Stroud kind of walking out there like a wide shot with the fans behind him, and everyone's going nuts, and it's 7 minutes left, and it's like, well, this is going to be a defining quarter of football one way or the other. And that was the same thing, because this is going to be one that no one's happy about.
Right.
And it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't count as a good win because it was a bad win, and it was terrible, and it doesn't count. If they had lost, if they had not gone down the field and driven down the field and gotten the touchdown in that crucial moment, oh boy, would they be in a much worse situation. And if the defense hadn't gotten some very, very important stops in crucial situations where there's been a lot of griping and the team doesn't force punts, the team doesn't force interceptions in big games and in fourth quarters. And the last two drives, Nebraska got the ball with 6:04 left. After Ohio State took the lead, Nebraska had 2 more drives, 3 plays, -2 yards, and a punt, 4 plays, 13 yards, and an interception. I mean, that's I recognize that the first 50 minutes of this game made everyone extremely mad. The offense got a drive when it needed it. The defense got 2 drives when they needed it. And the offense had a bad drive in the middle, all that stipulated. I think there needs to be take a brief moment from your rage to recognize that, hey, that was a pretty big drive for the offense. That was a couple pretty big drives for the defense.
Yeah, they stepped up when they needed to. There's proof of concept that they can do it. So that's good. I'll throw some numbers out to you, Tom. So 1 first down conversion for Ohio State, which is the lowest. The last time they had just 1 first down conversion, third down and conversion in a game. I'm sorry. Don't look.
No, I didn't see it. The last time they had 1 third down conversion in a game, when I think terrible football, I immediately think 2011 Illinois. But I'm sure it's more recent.
It's more recent than that, Tom, and it was
2015 Michigan State,
2019 Miami of Ohio, and Ohio State won 76-5. They were 1 of 5.
I was going to say that's a different kind of bad
also.
day.
So this is they won a game with 285 yards of total offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lowest number since
285 yards of total offense.
The lowest number in a win since. There was
they had. I keep thinking the Tulsa game, but they ran for
a different weather
many.
game.
Was it the Illinois game in 2017?
The Northwestern game. You were there.
Oh, the Northwestern game. Yes, at Northwestern.
A non-hurricane forced win game would be the 2000 and.
Boy,
I remembered it, but
the audience is very angry.
Yeah.
The good thing is we're bringing back past memories that are happy memories. So
I completely understand the anger is. Well, I mean, I'd say justified. You win a game. It's not what you expected. It's not. I wonder how many of these people lived. Anybody lived. Like, do you remember 2002? And I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of this, because you were favored by 25.5. Mm-hmm. You lose to a team, or you beat a team that lost by 49 earlier. We said last week, don't worry about that game that's just going to upset you because you're never going to reach that game. But you should never be trailing in the fourth quarter of this game against this team, a team that had scored 21 total points in the previous 2 weeks, has shown no semblance of any kind of offensive output that would scare anybody. And not that I don't think they scared Ohio State, because they held up pretty well, aside from 1 or 2 drives, which is how it kind of always goes. Mm-hmm. So there's, to me, through all of this, the biggest concern is still the running game and the offensive line.
Right. I think for sure. I know there's a lot of people that are worried about the defense, and that's lingering a little bit from the previous game. I think there were different problems on the defense today than you probably saw at Oregon. Oregon was just a couple big plays, really. And
Davis and Igbinosun needs to stop.
Davis and Igbinosun had a different kind of terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I think the BIA thing needs to get put on the shelf for a little while, unless they're going to change what the acronym is, what the letters stand for. I think that needs to get put on the shelf a little bit, because it is not looking great in a lot of spaces. Can we talk for a moment? Let's try, and I'm the optimist on the show, as we've all known for years. Can we talk for a moment about Caleb Downs? Because from where I was, and again, I don't always have a great view of the game, but from where I was, it looked like he pulled their bacon out of the fire a couple times.
He had a couple of touchdown-saving tackles. That there was one point, sorry to the Shaw family, but there was one where he's one-on-one. If he misses the tackle, it's a touchdown. And he makes a tackle. I'm like, can you imagine Bryson Shaw being in that situation? Yes, you could, because you saw it a few years back.
Yeah.
And that tackle was not made. And so it's very, very comforting for Ohio State to have that guy back there. The secondary as a whole, the safety situation, let's talk about that, because they did something that we had not prepared for, which was you have who's replacing Lathan Ransom? Well, it depends if it's a passing down or a running down, because in the base defense, it was Jalen McLean coming in, and they play 4-3. And the nickel, it would be Jordan Hancock and Jermaine Matthews going in, or Lorenzo Styles going in, and Jordan Hancock would play safety. It was interesting as they're all kind of waiting to go start. You're like, oh, are the Styles brothers going to be the first brothers to start at Ohio State since the Bourne brothers? It's like they're out there to know because it was a heavier set on offense, so they sent the linebacker and they sent Jalen McLean out there who had some good moments, but also I think he was involved in the 38-yard scramble where he kind of vacated the middle maybe.
Well, yeah, he's a true freshman. That's what's going to happen when you put a true freshman in that. And if it is not literally Caleb Downs, if you put a true freshman safety out there, that's what's going to happen. And Caleb Downs last year as a true freshman at Alabama, it probably had a few of those moments, but not very many.
Yeah.
It was, I think that was some very interesting and sort of creative approach to that, because you have a bunch of possible solutions. We talked about all the different possible permutations of the safety lineups that they could go with. I just was not expecting them to choose all of the above.
Let's just order the entire thing. Give us the entire menu.
While we're talking about linebackers, I don't know if this got discussed during the post game, but the targeting penalty on Arvell Reese, Ryan Day was going nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we were right there
nuts.
too.
And I have a photo that will illustrate the point.
Yeah.
That we can get to later. Oh, there it is right now. Yeah, Ryan Day. When they ask if Pepsi is okay, .jpg. He was not happy, and I have probably 17 others of him yelling at different people, and then did he get a flag? Or
Yeah.
Was it on him, or was it a sideline thing?
I don't know that it may have been the sideline, because he definitely got a flag
The
through, and
linesman
he
who was
right in
right
his
next,
face.
the linesman who was right there through the flag, and I thought, boy, you cannot get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah,
in
but it
that.
didn't feel like it was a 30-yard penalty. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, the replay showed shoulder to shoulder to me. But
Todrick says, thanks for the calm, measured breakdown. When my breakdown is anything but calm or measured. Yeah, I think you've got people who are coming off of the Oregon game, which was a loss, so therefore everyone freaked out. And after the Oregon game, I think we said, you went across the country, you played one of the best teams in the country, currently number one, currently thumping Illinois, and you lost by 1 point on a close, some close calls at the end of the Drake game and all that kind of stuff. That game didn't necessarily give me concerns. I think this one, where you have you're walking away with a win, but boy, now you lost that Mahalski potentially, we don't know, potentially long term. I don't know that the team or the performance necessarily makes me think this team is doomed. There's no possible way. I think just losing offensive linemen the way they have, that's something that you can't keep losing those guys. They're not incredibly deep there. Thank goodness they brought in Seth McLaughlin this year, because otherwise you'd be real short. You'd have Carson Hinsman obviously is not in the mix there necessarily to be the next guard in or whatever. So they brought guys in the portal, and they have gotten good development on some of the guys they brought in the portal. And so Josh Simmons has made huge strides. But now you've lost a couple tackles, and now you've got Donovan Jackson going out to tackle. How is he going to do? I don't know. I've never seen Donovan Jackson play tackle. So, and now you got to do it on the road against Penn State, who has a pretty decent pass rush. That, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. You might have to move the pocket, but then also you might be moving it into an attacking defense that is waiting for you to roll left, roll right more than left.
Yeah.
But I think the lineup that they'll put out next week will be more talented.
Yeah.
In terms of the offensive line, but as you said, we have no idea how Donovan Jackson is as a tackle. I would assume he would be better than Zen Mahalski, but I'm certainly not expecting Josh Simmons.
No.
Maybe Josh Simmons from last year, but not even then.
And Luke Montgomery is probably not going to be as good as Donovan Jackson at left guard. So you're probably, are you going from I haven't watched this game in any kind of way to evaluate the offensive line, so I'm just going to throw out letters here for illustrative purposes. Are you going from a C- left tackle and a B+ left guard to a C+ left tackle and a C+ left guard? I mean,
I
and
think-
if you are, is that better or worse?
Well, I think they're going to go back to Austin Searveld at left guard because he started 2 games there while Donovan Jackson was out.
Yeah.
Now that they've got some time to get him back to the left side.
I just don't. Yeah, I guess you spend the week in practice, and he just hasn't practiced on the left side in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
He
suggestion.
practiced there a bunch in fall camp, which is why he
Right.
was able to do it in the
Yeah.
games. But I mean, right now it's all hands on deck.
Yeah.
And whether you're right-handed or left-handed,
Yeah.
they need you there. So this is more of a Brian Day said they knew that this was going to be what they did if something happened this week in this game.
Yeah.
So that was their contingency. Now it's the longer term contingency that they have to deal with.
Yeah, and we sort of started talking about the Arvell Reese targeting call, and then got distracted by Ryan Day's picture. That's real big. I got the one angle on the scoreboard at the stadium, which is not the same as the angles on TV. So the angles on TV are what they're actually making the decision based on. So I have no idea what the officials looked at. The one angle I saw on the scoreboard looked like shoulder to head. So I assume there must have been a different angle on TV. My wife, who never weighs in on such things, texted me to say she didn't think it was targeting. So, and so I guess I'm curious if people who watch the game on TV, you guys were down on the field at that point, so you were at the mercy at the same one scoreboard replay that I saw.
I need to check with our buddy Marcus Hartman of Daily News, who's the arbiter of all things targeting. But to me, that did not look like targeting. But again, I will see stuff that looks like targeting and it's not, and I will see stuff that does not look like targeting and it is. So I think it's, did it look like a coin flip, heads or tails? Like, I mean, that's to me, it's always a coin flip because how many times have we seen the rules guy in the broadcast have a different opinion? I don't think this is targeting, and then boom, targeting is upheld. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's.
Do you think Brian Day will get his apology? Like when we talked to him on Tuesday, did the Big Ten reach out and say that was a bad call?
What I think, that's it. What Kevin just said. If you submit it to the Big Ten, could you get it overturned? Because
It's
you're
been done
not.
before.
It has happened before. So, I mean, the Big Ten replay folks are the ones who called it. So now you're asking the same judge to overrule their. So like, I don't know if that's going to be successful, but I guess theoretically it could happen. Otherwise, you've lost Arvell Reese for the first half of Penn State. That is a low key, significant blow for this team because that's a Penn State team that is probably going to be doing. That's a big game for the linebackers. It is a very run heavy and tight end pass happy offense for Penn State. It's a lot of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and it's a lot of Tyler Warren in that pass game. That's going to be a big game for the linebackers. You want to have all hands on deck, and unless something changes, they're not going to have all hands on deck.
Yeah, and Jordan Hancock is a very good run defender at nickel, but now he's at safety. So do you trust Lorenzo Styles as much as you do Jordan Hancock? I don't think there's enough evidence there yet for the coaches to be able to do that. So now you're talking CJ Hicks, Gabe Powers as being that third linebacker in there, and how do they feel about that? So it's not a great situation for Ohio State's defense to be going in to, like you said, a place where they will throw the ball to Tyler Warren 20 times.
Yeah, he had 17 receptions, I think, last game.
So
Chris says, according to the referee in the booth, he said it was targeting because it's any hit towards the head or neck area, whether it's helmet or forearm. So, because there were people saying that it was the forearm, the helmet. I mean, we'll see. Again, this is one of the things I would absolutely love to go back and watch this on the TV and see the angles that they made that decision based on. That was not a particularly well officiated game.
There's weird spots as well.
And the first offensive.
Both ways. Yeah.
The first, you remember the season that Major League Baseball told the umpires to really make an emphasis on calling balks, and all of a sudden every team was setting like balk rules. There must have been a memo about offensive pass interference because that
was a bad one.
The first one against Nebraska was a terrible call.
Yeah.
That was the second one towards the end of the game. That one was legit. The first one was a terrible call. There was, I didn't understand, and this is one that they didn't really explain, and I'm trying to, discern this from a sun-glared video board. The one where it was not a catch, the 2019 Fiesta Bowl Memorial, he caught it, took 2 steps and fumbled, and then it was, but it wasn't a catch. And then they overturned it and said it was a catch. He fumbled it, but I think they gave him the yardage, but then the fumble didn't count. Was he marked down? I was real confused on that one because it was not well explained on the field.
No, and at that point, I'm trying to walk to the other side of the field to get ready for the move down the field because, I was too busy like looking at the hit, and then Ross Bjork is right in front of me as well with Ryan Day. He's like the mediator between the two of us, and he's signaling it's a catch. I'm like, catch, fumble, like, and then of course none of it matters because you've got the targeting in there, and I'll be interested to see what the Big Ten says. They may very well uphold it because, like I said, nobody really knows what targeting is, so you can't say it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. You can't prove a negative.
Yeah, that's. I suppose that's possibly true.
You can't prove it wasn't. Apparently, if nobody knows.
Have we talked? We talked about Jordan Hancock. We talked about the run game struggles. We talked about the Zen Mahalski injury. We have not talked at all about Matt Rule's post-game press conference. Okay. Matt Rule is. You got to see a little bit of it earlier. I have it up on our YouTube channel. When the post-game show is done, not now. When the post-game show is done, go watch that. It is one of the best press conferences I've been through. He just lost this gut-wrenching game, and he's up there and he's saying, he's not saying moral victory. He's not saying, but he's talking about, hey, that is a program that for the last time they had a bowl game was 2016, and that is a team that is covered like the Ohio State team is covered. That was as full a visiting post-game room as I've ever seen over there outside of an Ohio State Michigan. The Nebraska beat is the only one that's even close to the Ohio State beat in terms of number of people, which is a good proxy for amount of interest in the team. So you have this program that's been 8 years, like in the wilderness, not even going to bowl games. Like Ohio State's bowl eligible, and we made one joking reference to it earlier in the game.
No balloons.
The folks in Lincoln, Nebraska will release a whole separate bunch of balloons when they finally get bowl eligible. And they will, because they just need one more win, and they've got winnable games on the schedule. But he is just so impressive. He doesn't do the players have to play better thing that he did. Watch the Matt Rule press conference and watch any Lincoln Riley little piss baby, what little boy nonsense that he does every time he loses. It's not my fault. Matt Rule is a fantastic coach. He is a great. That was a great press conference. You can see why guys want to play for him. And it's like the Kurt Signetti thing at Big Ten Media Days. It's just kind of like you listen to someone talk, and it's just like it's going to work for this guy at some point. Like I know it didn't work at all last week. It didn't come out their way today, but man, it was a really, really good. He's just a very, very good communicator. Very honest, straightforward guy, but who has the pedigree and has the background to back it up. And it's not just like the happy, scrappy hero pup guy who just has nothing other than good vibes. Yeah, and we'll get to questions here in a second. I'll just say this because I know maybe we're saying, oh, you won, be happy. You've got an offensive line in flux right now. Can't run the ball. Yeah. You're heading into a place that is very tough to play against a good defense that will be running the ball and throwing to places that are difficult for an Ohio State defense to defend, especially when you're missing one of your top 3 linebackers for the first half, perhaps, in Arvell Reese. You're going to be outmanned or undermanned in that first half. If Penn State gets out to any kind of a momentum type of lead, whether that's 7 or 14, something like that, that's a tough place to come back from. Now, we've seen it happen. Sure. But it doesn't mean it's easy. Well, you've got a veteran team. You've got all your guys back from last year. You've got all these guys came back to win a championship. What do you want your legacy to be? Yeah, I mean, you've been here for 4 years. You've currently reached 0 of your stated goals. 0. Yeah, it might be tough. Guess what? It's not always easy. Welcome to life. Yeah. I have bad news about what life is like after college if you think this is tough. Right. And I go back to Taylor Decker at the Michigan game, after the Michigan game,
when they went in there after the loss to Michigan State. And he said, if we didn't come in and win this game, all of the culture talk basically would have been crap.
Yeah.
So if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it. Let's go to let's take some questions and get the temperature of the people.
107 degrees.
From KJ, place blame at the top. They had an extra week to prepare. It sure didn't look like they had an extra week to prepare because the offensive game plan, I'll give credit to the defense. I thought they played well. Dylan Riola escaped a few times. Credit to him.
Yep.
That stopped in the second half. So they contained him much better. But this offensive game plan was very much lacking. How much of that is because of Josh Simmons? I mean, if everything collapses, or not everything, if the running game collapses because of your left tackle, you've got bigger issues.
Right. And yeah, you can scheme around one guy. Yeah. So it's not just a one guy problem at that point. I mean, I'm just going to read the second half possessions for Ohio State. This is on offense.
Yeah.
This is the side of the ball that everyone's happy with before today. 3 plays, 7 yards punt. 1 play, 0 yards interception. That was a poor choice. 3 plays, 8 yards punt. 3 plays, 8 yards punt. 8 plays, 75 yards touchdown. That's the one they absolutely had to have, and they had it. 3 plays minus 6 yards punt, and then the kneel downs at the end of the game. That's the offense in the second half. That is an offense that had a pretty good first half once they got going, and then just slammed head first into a wall.
Yeah, let's get to the super chat quickly, Tom.
Super chat from Jordan Kapler. Buckeye Huddle, sponsored by the Lincoln Riley and Hugh Freeze fan club, owned and operated by Tom Orr. Yeah, I mean they are 2 football coaches. Yes.
Hey,
yeah.
You don't want to be yelled at. Don't screw up.
Yeah. There's the third quarter drive charts for Ohio State. I mean, that's
granted, getting stopped at the 1. That's always going to be starting at the 1 yard line. It's always going to be difficult. But they kind of moved it out. They just you can't get that first down. And throwing as often as they did on short yardage situations on third and short tells you exactly how they feel about the running game right now.
Yeah. You can talk about toughness and fight and all that kind of stuff. If it's 4th and 1 and you're throwing it out to Emeka Buka, I mean, it wasn't like it was just that they didn't. It wasn't that they just did it the one time. It was because they got stuffed on 4th and 1 the previous time. The Nebraska second half. I mean, they had the first drive of the second half, 12 plays, 58 yards, got to kick the field goal. After that, last 5 drives of the game. This is the portion of the game that everyone's been griping about. Jim Knowles' defense can't get off the field. They can't force punts. They can't force turnovers. They can't do anything. They got handed the ball at the Ohio State 7. This is where Nebraska has kicked 3 field goals. It's 14-9 at that point, and Nebraska gets the ball at the Ohio State 7-yard line, and Ohio State holds them on downs. That goal line stand. I thought, this is the moment that the game completely turns. What an incredible stand. I was wrong. However, next drive, 4 plays, 3 yards, punt, another stop. You've now given them. They've now had the ball handed to them in Ohio State territory twice. Ohio State 7 and Ohio State 42, and Nebraska's come away with 0 points. 8 plays, 9 yards. They had the 9-play, 74-yard drive for the touchdown. And after that, when Ohio State answered with the touchdown again, and it was like, well, who's going to break serve here? Ohio State 3 plays, -2 yards in the punt, and then 4 plays, 13 yards of the interception. The game's over. I know this doesn't count because it's not
right.
Because it's not a game that counts. But that was a defense that did its job.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also agree with Ethan Maxfield comment there that they'll get 5 yards on the tush push. They won't necessarily get 5 every time, but they were getting some good yards on the sneaks, which is I don't know why they went away from that. But Jordan B, I'll go ahead and read this one. No, you know what? I don't want to.
It's probably this feels like a Jordan Kapler burner. One of the smartest things Tom said is that losing Simmons was more consequential than losing to Oregon. Yeah, I mean that's going to have
it's
a much
simple
bigger
point. I mean that's not everybody knows this.
It's going to have a much bigger long-term impact than a 1-point road loss. I mean that's just
yes. Yeah. David Greenshield, was it illegal to try a jet sweep with the Mecca or Jeremiah Smith? And I'm not disagreeing with that one at all. You got to try something, and they were. It just didn't seem like a very inventive or this was not the running game that we had come to expect by this point in the season. It's been struggled 2 weeks in a row. But I know they want to get Quinshon Judkins going, and they're trying. And he's had 2 back-to-back clunkers, and he did say he was kind of impacted by the hand a little bit 2 weeks ago. I think he's okay now, but yeah, trying to get started. And I'm not expecting the running game to be much better next week.
No, I don't think
Unless
so.
they hit, because there's no home runs. They need the home run to glossy up the numbers.
I think back to the 2020 Ohio State-Penn State game, and if I'm remembering this correctly, there was a early end around to Garrett Wilson for like a long play in that game that really kind of got them going at the start of the game. I think you've got to get, I mean, there's Jeremiah Smith, triple threat, and he is, you cannot target him 4 times. You have to get him the ball more times. I mean, that was an Urban Meyer thing. Like, you make a list of who do we have to get the ball to. Jeremiah Smith is at the top of the list. Every week, Jeremiah Smith should be at the top of the list. And if you don't feel like you can throw the ball to him downfield, okay, throw it to him closer to the line of scrimmage. Okay, you don't feel you can do that for whatever reason. You've seen him run the ball. He took a handoff and scored a touchdown against Michigan State. You got to just, even if it's the same play you've already put on film, like, run it again. Like, you got to get him the ball, because you've got a bunch of talented playmakers. We have seen some of them have good games, some of them have bad games. I have yet to see Jeremiah Smith have a game where he doesn't do one thing that you go, holy smokes, that was incredible.
Well, and the thing is, the only time he's held in check, it's not the defense, it's the lack of targets, that or incompletions, not being accurate and getting the ball near him. Wingman Ted, question for Bill Carollo with regards to the targeting call. Why was Nebraska able to get the 15 yards from the spot of the fumble that they did not recover and not from the line of scrimmage? Is it a spot of because the spot of the fumble is also the spot of the targeting?
Yeah,
so,
but
normally it's just 15 from the line of scrimmage.
Could he have been down? Could he have
they said he fumbled, right?
No, they said it was a completed pass. That was
well.
So could he have been down? They didn't explain it. So
and I was already on the other side of the field. Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they explained it on TV. Whether they said it was a fumble or not.
Yeah. There's Jordan Hancock celebrating his game sealing interception there. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I would love to know the answer to that, because that was one where I was on the field and it was like it was real delayed in terms of like when they actually put here's where the ball is and here's it down in distance on the scoreboard. So I didn't have, but they moved it a bunch down the field. So it was very clearly not just here's the 15 yards. So they did give him the thing, but there was no explanation given as to why. So maybe that's something we can get some clarification on.
I was just trying to read the entire play from the stat broadcast play-by-play, and it's both complete and incomplete. So the play was under review, so they moved it. I don't even know where to begin with this entire mess. It ends up being no play. So I know, great show, guys. As I'm trying to read through, because it's very convoluted. I mean, we're all still trying to figure out, hey, what exactly happened? I don't know.
Yeah. And it was okay, so they said fumble on the field. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, because there was a ref saying incomplete as well.
Right.
That's the ref that I saw.
They said incomplete,
And then
they said complete, but I felt there was a fumble, but I didn't get to see a replay on the field.
Yeah, because I know one of the reasons, I assume the reason the replay took so long is because they were first looking to see targeting and then also catch or not.
Yeah.
And they
CC Ogden has a in the second one. The pass was complete, therefore the targeting is marked on the completion, and then he followed up with it wasn't no play, complete pass rule.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So all right.
Because it went from the 12 to the 46. So it was a 19-yard completion, and then a 35, 15 and no 15 from Day. So that would have just been a sideline warning.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though he was very much off the sideline.
He was. Yeah.
He was out there. He was out there talking with the ref.
Yes.
And then when that call came in, he was still then he got louder, and then there was like sideline warning. It's like, I've been here the entire time talking with you, and now you're throwing a sideline warning?
Yeah. All right. So we want to get anything. We talked about 220 already, didn't we? They didn't get
They
there.
did not get there.
Yeah, it's not-
They barely got to 220 overall, Tom.
Yeah,
So,
boy, it was
nice job.
221 in passing.
If
so-
anybody wants to ask about my bowl predictions,
No one wants to talk. Tony, there's lots of stuff that people want to talk about.
all right.
That's not any of them.
Any other questions that we can get to then?
Wingman Ted says, I'm really concerned about Chip continually not adjusting away from his tendencies to try to throw bubble screens in the backfield when the run game's struggling. That's it. Like I said earlier, if you're running for 2 yards a pop and you're throwing for 17 yards a pop, it feels to me like you should be doing one of those things more often than the other. Like, I get it that that's what you want to do, but take what's working until it stops working.
Well, you threw the ball deep twice.
And they went for a touchdown and also a touchdown.
100 yards total. So maybe dial that up more. Yeah. And if you're saying, well, the safeties are back, so we can't, then it's like, well, why are you only rushing for 2 yards a carry?
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Right. It can't both be happening. But if the offensive line is struggling, it kind of can, as long as those guys are getting beat. But if you're 2 for 2 on deep balls.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to just heave it deep every time. Get it out and get it into your playmaker's hands. Get it into Emeka Buku's hands. Get it into Jeremiah Smith's hands. Get it into Carnell Tate's hands. Carnell Tate had a heck of a game.
Yeah, he did.
Carnell
First
Tate had a
100-yard game, I believe.
Yeah, fantastic game. It feels like there are solutions there, and they just weren't being taken. Again, I would love to get to watch the game on a TV copy. And Hollywood Hagar says, I don't feel good about the rest of the season, but I know teams have ups and downs. Let's hope it's one of the downs that can reignite this team.
Do you remember watching Bowling Green light up Penn State for half of football?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, everybody. Do you remember Oregon being in a dogfight to Idaho, and then also Boise State? So yeah, this stuff happens. It's just in the moment. Yeah, it's terrible. But if you beat Penn State by 17 points next week, nobody's going to ever remember this game.
Right.
But if you lose, it's like, well, the signs were there. Yeah, the signs are there.
Do you remember 2014? The next to last home game of the season was Indiana, and this is not Kurt Signetti, Indiana.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was losing to Indiana in the second half, third quarter, I think, late third quarter, early fourth quarter. Ohio State was losing at home to Indiana, and then 4 games later was the national champion. Like, it happens. If you were old enough to remember 2002, sometimes games are close against inferior opponents during championship seasons.
All the time.
Georgia has had close games against crappy teams a bunch, and they've had the last 2 games in Lexington, Kentucky have both been very close for Georgia, like real close and gross late into the fourth quarter. It happens. Bad teams have close games, and good teams have close games. So you're going to have close games. That's sort of my big takeaway. You're going to have close games. It's just a matter of, okay, how do they respond now? And they got to figure it out before next week, because they had plenty of time to kind of go through and mess around. Oh, I'll try this, we'll do that. That's fine. That's done.
This was not a good response to the Oregon loss.
No. And it was not a good response to the Oregon loss, and you potentially have more complications now with the Mahalski injury.
Yeah, for sure.
Don Belt said, why didn't they put a tight end over the left tackle for help? They did sometimes.
Well, I know also there were times where Donovan Jackson would, like, they'd be organized in a way that there would be help, and it wouldn't just be him on an island. But yeah, you kind of have to change up what you do. But if it's getting to be that bad, then you should remember the Isaiah Prince thing, like help this poor man out against Penn State, where you're just hanging him out to dry, and that becomes like coaching malpractice. Yes, players got to make the plays. If your player can't, then either remove him, or put 2 players there to help him out. And if a tight end is no longer in the route, newsflash, they're not going to get the pass generally, even running the route. Now they may be taking a defender with them, and so now that maybe things are clogged up in the secondary a little bit, but it's better to have an opportunity to throw the ball by having more time to actually get rid of the ball, because you're helping somebody out. But this is not a great audition for Zed Mahalski, even because I do wonder, were they getting close to yanking him? He had played long enough. I figured they were just going to continue to let him go through this, but would they have explored the possibility this week? And it's like, well, no, because you don't want to do that for Penn State. It's like, well, by the end of the third quarter next week, you might have been going with Donovan Jackson anyway.
Right. Yeah. It didn't feel like they had a great answer there, and I don't know that you're going to have a great answer there now. Sometimes you just got to kind of deal. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not. Sometimes you got to have Darryl Baldwin playing tackle for you, and you can win a national championship anyway. I mean,
and to that point, talking on Twitter, it's like, they've had poor recruiting on the offensive line, and it's like, Urban 2 years started a different defensive lineman at right tackle. One was Darryl Baldwin, the other was Chase Ferris, and they won it with Darryl Baldwin. They did not win it with Chase Ferris, and so it's like there aren't enough great offensive linemen to field 6 or 7. And once you start getting out of your top 4 or 5, then things can get a little hinky, and you're seeing that, and you may continue to see that. That's why I think Donovan Jackson at left tackle at least makes them the more talented lineup than this week. Now, is it overall better? I don't know. I know it's more talented.
Yeah. Ethan Maxfield I don't know where he gets off with his optimism, but he says the lack of offensive bye week is troubling, but 13 tackles for loss and 2 interceptions is pretty good. Nebraska has a good offensive line. It wasn't a great day for the defense, but it was a pretty good day for the defense, and the defense showed you some things that they had not shown you before. One of the things that Matt Rule mentioned is Larry Johnson, typically they just will rush 4. They brought some extra heat today, and it got home.
They also had at least one with 3 down linemen and brought about 6. And that ended up being a big play for Nebraska. But they did show some different things: 3 down, 4 down, 5 down. So that was, I think that's a positive thing that they can build on, because Tom, they might need the defense to win next week, and I don't mean to keep talking about next week, but that's. You're going to have to find ways to win. The fact that they were able to win a game in the fourth quarter, I don't care against who, just the fact that they put the plays together is a positive step that they can build on from here, because had they lost, what in the world do you do then?
Well, had they lost, you're getting ready to have some other conversations about
the playoffs are still there ahead of you, but it's like, we just lost at home to Nebraska.
Right, and then you have to beat. Then you get zero margin for error. You've got to beat Penn State. You've got to beat Purdue and Wisconsin, Purdue and Northwestern. Yeah, you got to beat Indiana. You got to beat Michigan, and then you got to beat whoever potentially in the Big Ten championship game, or you don't. You try and get an at-large bid, but then you're playing probably a road game your first. I mean, so that has been avoided. You still do have a little bit of margin for error. If they lose to Penn State next week, they're probably still in the college football playoff, especially if they lose close. If they lose 17-14 or 24-20 or 31-27 or 31-20 even, like you're still probably in the college football playoff at that point. But you got to win out. The margin for error gets a little slimmer. They did not use any of their 9 lives today. So that, from their perspective, has to be a positive.
I will say, and I think I saw Terry Mitchell mention it in the chat about the fact that Ohio State got lucky that some of those deep shots from Dylan Raiola to open receivers were long off target. So, and I don't know if any of those drives, because I know there were 2 missed plays. I don't know if either of those ended up in a touchdown anyway.
One of them was
a third down, wasn't it?
One of them was a shot in the corner of the end zone that it was about that far off the receiver's fingertips. I got a picture of that I have not found on the hard drive yet, but it'll be in the photo gallery at some point. The other one looked like there was just a mix-up, and the two defensive backs both went with the inside receiver, and there was someone wide open. I don't think they scored a touchdown on that drive, but yeah, it was not perfect by any means. I know we have
real quick, but those are the shots that Dylan Gabriel hit last week.
Right. Yeah.
And had Dylan Raiola hit them this week,
you're having a different conversation. We have a graphic about Will Howard's performance today. We can get to that in a minute. Will Howard, again, it was a classic Will Howard performance. He ran a little bit, made some plays with his legs. He was very good and consistent, except for the one that you went, "Oh no, what are you doing?" And there was an interception that was just, I could see it coming.
I don't think he ever saw. He saw Emeka matched up with a slot guy, and he didn't see the corner that was matched up with the outside receiver. Never bothered running with the outside receiver. He just because it was a pretty quick throw. So that one, what the right before his fumble, that he got hit from behind and he fumbled.
Yeah.
I was like, I was telling I'm not going to drop names, but just mentioned like, boy,
Kevin Noon.
It's like, is it about time for those one or two plays from Will Howard that we talk about?
That was a real ball security thing. Because that's another one where I've got a picture and I looked and I'm like, he's got it with one hand right there. There's a guy just to his left. Like, you should be feeling that guy right there. He is large and he's running very fast at you. You should be feeling that guy.
But still, it's a good game.
Yeah, right. 13 for 16, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns.
9 of 9 in the first half.
9 of 9 in the first half. I mean, he's been exactly what they need him to be. And he was exactly what they needed him to be today. He did fine. If they had lost the game, it would not have been at all Will Howard's issue. Dylan Raiola looked a lot like a freshman quarterback, a talented freshman quarterback, 21 to 32, 152 yards, a lot of checkdowns, 5 yards an attempt. No touchdowns, but 9 rushes, 31 yards. That's out of his, kind of typical game plan. A little like the C.J. Stroud 50-yard touchdown at Michigan State in 2020, where it was like,
he's a runner.
He's a runner. Well, no, not exactly, but you got to give him credit when the play was there. He made the play. You could tell he's going to be good in a year or two. He's not there yet, and it's a true freshman quarterback. That's what they do.
Yeah. So Will Howard 3 of 3 on the game-winning drive, and also 2 carries for 14 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he needed to do on that drive.
Yep. Shuttle Joe says they won. That is all that matters. And in the big picture, yes. In the fact that they have to go to Penn State next week, less so. But they did what they needed to do to win the game on Saturday, and so that's credit to them. If they had not won the game, you would be in a much worse mood.
Yeah, every game is kind of its own universe, and then the next game is a different universe. But you're still right now where Ohio State is with the offensive line. You're still carrying some things with you to the next game that are going to cause problems in the next universe as well.
Speaking of things that may cause problems in the next game, Ohio State needs to have a kicker that can make a 42-yard field goal.
They trust him, right? They said they trust Jaden Fielding. Now, it's not often easy to tell if a kick is good or not from the press box because you're looking at it.
That wasn't close.
I'm getting there, Tom. Wasn't too long before you could see, oh, no. This is way wide right. It was opposite direction, but not unlike Mike Nugent 2001-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Houston 2001-ish, kicking it into the tunnel, basically.
Yeah, that's an area where inconsistency is kind of a thing. Hashtag college kickers is a thing for a reason. But if you're not sure you got someone, you got to be more active in the portal. They were plenty active in the portal. It's just it has come up a couple times. If you're missing 55-yarders, that's one thing. If you're missing a 42-yarder on a day when there's a little bit of a wind, but not much. You can't be doing that in close games.
I wonder, is the wind the reason that Nebraska's kicker, who came in 4 of 9 this season and what hit all 3 of his, a 39-yarder, a 54-yarder, and a 47-yarder. That dude, give him the Groza right now.
He was like Will Ferrell in Old School, where he just goes off on this thing and this rant, and he's like, I blacked out. If you ask him how did you play today, I don't know that he'd give you the answer. We talked about that a bunch. He was 4 for 9 on field goals coming in today. That's just, and I picked 34-6 as the score. And afterwards I was like, that was stupid. There's no way they're kicking 2 field goals. And they kicked 3 field goals, and they were 3 for 3. That's the kind of thing that you have to have reliable special teams if you're going to win these close games. There will be a game that comes down to a field goal for one team or another at some point during this run. Whoever wins the national championship, you're going to have a game that comes down to a field goal one way or the other. You got to have a field goal kicker you can trust in that moment. And I don't, it's very easy to say, yeah, we trust him, no problem. I don't, we'll see how they handle those situations moving forward.
Yeah, ideally you don't want to kick a field goal unless you have to, and they're probably going to remain aggressive on fourth downs after seeing this today.
On a positive side, Joe McGuire averaged 47 yards per punt.
He had a good
5
game.
punts. He had a very good game.
He got some good rolls, got some inside the 20, so he did a good job, and they needed him.
Yep. Let's see. Do we want to run here? I know we have a Big Ten standings graphic that we can get to real quick, just to kind of, because I think we can sort of safely, Oregon winning at the half over Illinois 35-3. There was this scenario where Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State and Indiana and Illinois all finished with one loss. Okay, so that we can probably safely take that one off the board. Ohio State still, it was a deeply frustrating game, I'm sure, but Ohio State controls its own destiny. This is next week. Oregon is 5-0. They play at Michigan. They're probably going to be winning again. They're Indiana at Michigan State. They should win that game probably. Ohio State at Penn State. If Ohio State wins, they continue to control their own destiny. If they lose, well, then you're having a different conversation for the first college football playoff ranking show.
Yeah, and if they lose, then at least you'll have the opportunity to play Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people are looking forward to that opportunity right now.
Well,
buckle up for that
Yeah.
one. And Curtis Work should be fine. And if he's not, Taven Jackson seems to be pretty good as well.
Yep.
Have we defeated the listeners?
Yep.
Or
Do we want to go through? You want to do like a picture or two?
Sure, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's throw up a picture or two if we want to do that, and then we can wrap it up. There we go. Yeah, there's the team taking the field before the game. I was very disappointed to figure out that my lens was just slightly not wide enough to get both of the pyro things. Did like that shot up above the tunnel. There's Carnell Tate. This is, I actually have a whole sequence of that. You can zip through those if you want to do them. But that was his Carnell Tate's long touchdown reception there.
good job by him to hold on, because that got caught up in the wind a little bit, and I thought it was going to get broken up, and he was able to hold on to it from the first guy and the second guy, and then also when he hit the ground.
Yep. Yeah, that was
It's the first touchdown since the season opener, I believe.
Yeah, he's had a kind of quiet year, and it's not because of he had a little bit of an injury at one point.
Yeah.
But I think he's someone that gets sort of forgotten and lost because everyone talks about Jeremiah Smith, and then you talk about Emeka Egbuka because it's like, well, people forget about it. People sleep on Emeka Egbuka, and then it's like, well, but they don't actually sleep on Emeka Egbuka because everyone talks about how you sleep on Emeka Egbuka. You're really sleeping on Carnell Tate.
And Tate, first 4 games, averaging about 50, 55 yards per game, which is decent enough, but has been quiet until this one, his first career 100-yard game. I'm going to confirm that. Yes. Career high 79 last year at Purdue, which sort of counts. This one definitely counts more. So,
all right,
is that it? Are we good? All right.
Good.
Before we go, if you could hit the thumbs up if you have not already, we'd appreciate that. I know most of you have, and we do thank you for that. Please sign up, hit the thumbs up to be notified, or hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done that. And, of course, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a premium member. First month, only $4.99. We had a bunch of stuff back there on the paywall on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus this past week. Recruiting stuff, team stuff that you can go ahead and check out. It's still there for you, and there'll be more coming next week. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.